And today, moderating the conversation will be Benedict from Bitcraft. I hope you enjoy, and please take it from here. There is a microphone right there that you can use.
Hello,
Thank
hello.
you.
So thanks for coming. You can maybe see based on the quality of my chair that this was a last minute thing. So there was no moderator a few minutes ago, which is why I jumped in here. But yeah, nice to be here, and thanks for being on this panel. I think we can start with a quick round of introductions, where you're working, and maybe what was your first interaction with the metaverse even. So maybe if we start over there. Marco, would you like to go first?
Sure. I'm with the Venture Reality Fund. My partner Tip10 and I started the fund 6.5 years ago. Our conviction was the combination of AR, VR, AI at that time will transform the way we live, socialize, entertain, and work. And we really started this, Tip10 started this much earlier. And he, when the DK1 came out, and what was it, 2013, 2014, he started writing. He's a big Matrix fan, so he would write this code. You follow Morpheus, you jump from building to building. And I have height phobia. He has height phobia. He cured himself, and he thought, "Wow, this is going to change our lives." So that was our first experience.
I love that. Mine's slightly different. Hi everyone, I'm Faye. Really excited to be here. So previously, I was actually with Benedict at Bitcraft. Since left, now I'm backed by Atomico in London, and I'm doing my own angel investing from the main Character Club, investing in companies with character. And you'll see this when I say my next part here, but my first foray into the metaverse, quote unquote, was Sims. I was an only child living in the countryside of England. Can be quite a lonely place, and I used to spend lots of hours in that game. And if only I had been able to make money, real money, from those assets that I was creating, I'm for sure I would probably not be here and be retired by now. So.
Hi everyone, I'm Cansu from Ludus Ventures. Actually, our venture capital is based in Istanbul, but our fund is based in Luxembourg. So we are a brand new fund, I would say, like we were established in the beginning of 2021. And we are investing in gaming ecosystem mostly. And since last 8 months, I would say, we have started investing in metaverse and XR technologies as well. So I will be here representing my company.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm going last. So I'm Benedict with Bitcraft. Bitcraft started out as a firm that was just investing into esports back in 2016. And over the years, our vision has expanded. Now we believe that people are going to spend more time in virtual worlds in the future. And based on that, we invest mainly in gaming or everything that's gaming related, but also technologies, platforms, and increasingly also what we call applied game mechanics, which we define as applications that are outside of the gaming space, but are increasingly being gamified. And my first interaction with the metaverse, I spent a lot of my time in virtual worlds in my youth, so I was also playing World of Warcraft, League of Legends, Counter-Strike, and trading digital assets back then. But I think no one at that time actually called it the metaverse. So maybe that's a good, also kind of like transition to the next question. How would you actually define the metaverse? Cansu, would you like?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's normally a very like journalistic description that everyone says, that like feeling the moment in another verse or something like this. But my description of metaverse would be living in another moment when you are in another world. It's kind of like looking from a gaming perspective. I would say like gaming is always feeling like a metaverse, but gaming in metaverse is something totally different. It's like especially like exactly living in that game, but when you have another life in another moment. So I would say like my description would be really living in two places at the same time.
Yeah, I would agree. Also, the interconnection of those virtual worlds is also really important. So whether that's around presence, whether that's around assets moving between, maybe that's identities, also ways of expression, digital expression, so digital fashion, voice synthesis, however you choose to express yourself. I think I also would like to imagine a world where we can also use that identity formation across other worlds that are interconnected?
Yeah, for us, the metaverse is the future of the internet. And so if I can sort of expand a little bit, we started Fund One with the future of computing as our motto. Second is the future of the internet. One of our first investments was Rec Room. You know, fast forward, Rec Room is now the next generation Roblox and internet because it's driven by creator economy and incredible participation by, UGC group. They really started getting on Rec Room with paintballs and so forth, and they discovered interaction was really important. So they kept asking the team, can you give us rooms? And then can you give us tools? And as a result, when you go to Rec Room right now, there's always something to do. That's always been the case. So for us, if you look at the future of the internet versus the past of the internet, really started in the early 90s, right? It's about 12 to 15 year transition. And the second, Web 2.0 started probably 2010, no, 2000, sort of mid 2000 to 2020, about another 15 years, dominated by social platforms, very concentrated social, clustering experiences. And 3.0, which we call metaverse, is more decentralized, empowering. And I feel like there are three groups. Sorry, I won't talk as much. One is the sort of crypto side of metaverse, right? DeFi, decentralized, and all that. And a lot of it is, a combination of altruistic version of, empowering agency and protecting agency, and also, at the same time, heavy trading economy. And the second group is the XR community that looks at, device-driven immersive environments and spatial and, immersive computing and sort of digital virtual worlds. And for us is really all of that. And it really takes about 10 to 15 years. That's where we think the internet is going, and that's how we sort of define metaverse.
Yeah, I think if we synthesize what all of you just said, it's about social experiences. It's about creating the future of the internet, which I guess comprises various technological aspects. You mentioned already blockchain technologies to kind of like make it more decentralized, right? Then also, I think which will be a major interest also of this group here, just AR and VR. And then I guess another part of it, and I think it's also part of your fund, Marco, of your thesis, is actually artificial intelligence. So I think going forward, we can maybe structure the discussion around these three technologies, especially because it's about investing in the metaverse. So maybe starting with XR, also because this conference focuses around XR. What do you think about the adoption, maybe of, first of all, VR, but then also AR going forward? Where do you think we are in terms of the adoption cycle, and what does it actually need to, reach that kind of like mass adoption?
Yeah, just on AR, it's actually really interesting because I think it's been ubiquitous really for quite a long time. If you think about lenses, so Snap Lens Studio has been around probably 5 years now. The last time I was actually at AWE, I was my avatar on the main stage as a Snap Lens. Actually, Gen Z are using these lenses as part of their daily lives, daily behaviors, and they're changing these filters or avatars, as you see on Roblox, almost like 1 to 5 times a day, which is really exciting about how we're interacting with AR technologies, whereas what we would typically see with maybe kids, actually when I was growing up, I'm a millennial, unfortunately, I would do a lot of this identity formation maybe out in the street on my bike, but a lot of these kids are actually having these interactions with their peers in a digital environment, and a lot of this is actually through experimentation with these AR technologies. Also something else in terms of XR and these social experiences, Gorilla Tag, I'm sure a lot of you in this room know it. I actually went in there fairly recently and was quite shocked by all the squeaky voices in there. Lots of Gen Zs are having fun with friends, meeting new internet friends. And I've even heard some of them say that their internet friends, they have stronger connections and stronger bonds with those people in there than they do on the outside world. So I think social shared experiences are really exciting. And AR, I think, has been around for a while. I think we just need to understand it's a core behavior now with Gen Z. It's only going to keep growing.
No, I think it's good you mentioned that. In my introduction, I said I was playing a lot of video games in my youth. I was always playing that together with my brother, by the way, and just comparing it to right now, and you'll understand where I'm getting, is on those flat screens, I was maybe talking to him over, like a voice chat. I was recognizing his voice, but like the avatar that he had, there was obviously no resemblance to his real life person. Now, when I jump into a VR experience, even though the avatars are still, far from where they will be in the next few years, I could immediately recognize his gestures, and I knew it was my brother. And I think like this kind of like feeling, it's really a new way to experience, togetherness, and that's what really convinced me of this technology. And I think a lot of people that haven't really tried out these social experiences don't really understand where it will lead us. So that's what I think is really powerful about the technology. But yeah, I mean, I would also be interested about your point of view, and also Marcos, on how you convince VR skeptics of the space.
I mean, when you first asked the question, there was an example that just popped up my mind, because what I've seen is that like this XR technologies, especially like I would say augmented reality part, this is not only happening on the like technology side or like gaming side. There is a whole new branch which is like for family relationships. It's like education, training the children, or like having, I would say, like long distance discussions with the family members. Because when we think of the technology, we always think of the most, I would say, like young generation, but not the youngest ones. We think of either like Gen Z or Gen Y or something like that has some education or after some age, like some level. But with augmented reality, I'm seeing a very big future, because the future is like even the smallest kids can interact with this technology. This is insane, because like when you think of the, I would say, the internet's history or something, you always start either like age 5 or age 6, or let's say like age 7 and upwards, but you don't think about like 2 years old baby interacting with his grandfather like from some other countries via some augmented reality application, through like they are telling stories to each other or interacting with each other. This is why I'm really seeing a big future. For augmented reality, that would be my comment, because it's a very big place for opportunity, I would say.
Yeah, so for us was the VR and XR in general. To 2016, so take you back 6 years, we started the fund we called the Venture Reality Fund. But TIPTAT couldn't get the URL, so we got the VR fund. So we're fundraising for our fund. Everybody's like, why are you raising money for VR? It's so small. We're like, no, we're Venture Reality Fund. V stands for venture. So at that time, as you know, the whole experience was tethered, with a PC, high GP and so forth. And September 2017, ARKit and ARCore came out. And all of a sudden, you had this AR sort of mobile AR, which, obviously billions of devices. And then along the way, the Quest came out, and then we sort of eliminated the tethered experience. So for us, really, if you look back 6 years, the inflection points were really sort of September 2017, ARKit and ARCore to enable, billions of mobile devices, and then really the tetherless headsets, right? And so, and then sort of along the way, how we went through the adoption, beginning of 2020, and with the pandemic starting, we were extremely nervous. By the way, Fund 1, we made 42 investments, and you might know some of them: Rec Room, Beat Saber, Alchemy, Wave, and others. But we were, because we didn't know what was going to happen during the pandemic. And location-based entertainment disappeared, right, overnight. And so we're going through every company, how much cash they have and how long they're going to survive and all that. And we lost a couple of them, unfortunately. But by the end of 2020, there was incredible adoption. Immersive training, immersive like sector solutions from HVAC, like electricians and so forth, to more sophisticated use cases. And AR started picking up. So 2020 was an amazing year for us in terms of XR adoption across really consumer and enterprise sectors. Beginning of 2021, we had our first unicorn, Rec Room. And Rec Room now has 82 million registered users, almost like the 20% of Fortnite. So the last 2 years have, unfortunate aspect of the pandemic has really accelerated the value proposition for immersive solutions. And in now Fund 2, we made 10 investments already, continuing with what Johnson was saying, like spatial computing, AR, and all that, creating different aspects of metaverse.
Yeah. And also, I just want to add there, I think that's a really great point. Even Roblox just recently announced their September numbers, and I think there's a 16% hourly increase. So it just proves it's not a pandemic play. We're actually spending a lot of time in these environments.
Maybe on what you just said, Marco, Rec Room and also Roblox are obviously cross-platform games or experiences. Do you know how much % of that is actually happening in VR?
I can't tell you.
Okay. Then another question, I think.
What is the largest community in VR?
Okay, okay. You mentioned that especially during the pandemic, there was a large pickup of immersive training. It was similar for us. I mean, the companies that we invest in, mainly in the gaming space, everyone wanted to invest in gaming. Everyone, had to stay at home. A lot of people were, reconnecting with their friends that they couldn't otherwise see because there were restrictions. And I think it was a great way to just, maintain these social connections. I would be interested because, especially after the pandemic, now that lockdowns have kind of like gone, there are no further lockdowns, no further restrictions. Do you think this kind of like sentiment among the corporate clients is still the same? Are they still interested in these immersive experiences? Have they realized that it's actually a good way to do this instead of what they've done before?
I think it's what I've seen just generally. I think a lot of companies are now open to remote work. I think you and I actually have spent a lot of our careers working remotely. Now with a lot more of the general pop actually doing so. So I think we are now in need of more of these immersive present building experiences. I know you and I have actually talked about this, but it would be interesting if you and I could, you in Germany, myself in Spain, working together on a project, not necessarily needing to share a co-working space. I think employees, just from what I've seen, are definitely a lot more open to that, especially with the price points of the Quest. But I'd be interested to hear what others have to say.
Yeah, so a couple of things happen during the pandemic. In some cases, pandemic continues, is that there's permanent change in behavior. I don't think we're going back to what it was before. And also, there's a standardization of the investment model. I'll talk about that in part 2. So part 1 is that, like our portfolio company, Apprentice, they use AR and AI to transform drug manufacturing. And before the pandemic, it would take them literally 8 months to sign a contract with Merck or J&J, all these big pharma companies, because procurement, really ages you dramatically when you work with them. So, but during the pandemic, they couldn't be in the same room. But with their glasses, if you're my manager, if I'm, going through the whole manufacturing process, you can monitor me remotely and certify me, either real time or post-production. So their 9-month procurement cycle went to literally 3 weeks. And as a result, Apprentice helped accelerate 6 different COVID vaccinations. And again, tear-jerking moment was that founder's mom got the vaccine that her son's company created. And now company is growing in leaps and bounds. So that part has been, I think we're seeing it across other enterprise solutions. The standardization on the venture side is, what happened in the last 2 years is that if you have an enterprise SaaS model as a XR company, and if you get to inflection points of 1 million ARR, 4 million ARR, or 10 million ARR, what VC has decided that, okay, this is a standard company, I don't care what they use. If they have XR devices or browser-based and whatever, all of a sudden you have the venture community saying, you conform with our enterprise SaaS growth model, which is 4-4-3 or 3-3-2, which is year-to-year multiple growth. So if you're on 1 million ARR, you have good visibility to 4 million ARR. a lot of VCs were investing. Now, in this market, they're waiting for 2 million ARR to do 3x. So I think this combination has been really powerful.
And like definitely agreeing with what Marco said, just I want to add something about this as well, because like he is really right when saying that there was a permanent change in the behavior, especially when you think of the hybrid work. Before pandemic, we weren't really aware of what hybrid work was, what like remotely working was really possible for every single person who is working in, just not in production, even if it's like machine learning at the moment, but still, there was a hybrid work. And still we continue to work in remotely or hybrid worldwide, like every single person is willing to work hybrid or remotely at some point in their life because they get used to it in the pandemic. And what happened is, like, for example, if you consider, like, if you think of how Meta is highly investing in the metaverse, it's not only gaming or social interactions, it's on working as well. For example, there was the Meta Connect, like you all know probably, and they just announced their new headset, and they talk about the remote working tools such as like Shape6R, which is one of our companies in our portfolio. It's at the moment really possible for every single person in every role to work remotely, and there is really huge investment from VC's point of view, from big technology firms' point of view. There is a very huge room for it, like for investing in the metaverse, but in more enterprise session. So I feel like there was an opportunity for it, and it will be growing in this way as well.
Thank you. Yeah, it's almost like you can read my mind, because the next question would have been about meta strategy and also about creating awareness. I think over the past years they've definitely done a great job. I've seen a few surveys, interestingly, and they basically stated that a lot of people, once they've tried VR, they were very interested to continue in that VR experience. But first of all, there were high barriers to actually buy the device, because obviously at that price point, and especially once they've increased, or after they increased the price recently, it has gotten harder again. But generally, what do you think about Mark Zuckerberg's strategy, and maybe also what would you advise them to do differently right now?
Well, we've been telling him to buy Rec Room for a while, but instead of doing it in-house, and there's not much going on in Horizon. But yeah, but seriously, I know we self-serving, but we really thought, instead of creating everything in-house, sort of like acquire relevant components, key pieces, and because building a community takes a long time, and building community is really hard. If you remember, in the beginning, there's Altspace, High Fidelity, and Rec Room, and the first two couldn't make it, unfortunately. And because community requires certain activities, and you need community, and then you need content, and you need commerce, 3 C's. So you need 2 out of 3 somehow. And so, I'm in no position to suggest anything to Zuckerberg, but our thing was, you have to get key components. Unfortunately, they acquired one of our portfolio companies that we didn't want to sell, Beat Saber. Like, Beat Saber was doing really, really well. And Meta said, we're going to buy it. Like, we told the founders, no, don't sell it. It'll be 2x, 3x in a year. And so that part is working. There is, they're acquiring different pieces. But for us, to build a vision that you spend $10 billion a year, you have to acquire key components to accelerate it.
I would also say I was quite surprised by that partnership announcement with Microsoft. I think we've also seen that Zoom doesn't work, Zoom schooling doesn't work. So I was quite excited by the idea of extended presence. So, and Meta coming in there, I think nice collaboration, and also gives me hope that maybe there can be more cross collaboration between incumbents, something that maybe Web3 is ushering in a little faster. But yeah, I was quite excited by that, and also the avatar expression mechanics. I think having that, especially the eye contact, especially thinking through like VR and education, I think teaching and kids in that sort of environment, I think it will be really, really valuable moving forward for education.
I think I already told my part.
So in terms of VR, we've been talking about social experiences. You've just mentioned education as another potential use case. Gaming, obviously, we've invested into Resolution Games, which are one of the major publishers and developers out of Sweden, mainly developing AR and VR multiplayer experiences. One of our most recent investments into VR is Trip. They are doing guided meditation and relaxation exercises, and they have also proven that clients undergoing surgery, if they use the experience before the surgery, they actually reduce the stress levels. So I think there's a lot of stuff happening in this space. I would be interested in part of these verticals that we've just mentioned. What are other areas that you think are interesting to look at or invest in over the next few years?
Just want to ask, like, have you mentioned education as well? Oh, okay. Because I think like in immersive technologies and like XR space, I think the education will be one of the most highly focused areas in the industries because at the moment it's very easy for even the like youngest kids to reach the internet, and when you cannot control it, you have to control the content inside. Like maybe you have to change the way that they are interacting because you cannot control how much they are interacting with the internet. This is why, in my opinion, it's gonna be much more I would say it's going to be much more active space, like the internet and the education, for at least for the kids. And when it's going to be more immersive and it's going to be more like interactive, it's going to be even more interesting for them. And I guess like it is one of the most focused areas for the future.
No, I would 100% agree. Also, I'm spending a little bit of time at the moment in virtual commerce, so digital stores. Obviously, we're seeing this already a lot happening in Roblox, a lot of brand and IP activations. I'm also looking at a couple of platforms that are allowing brands to be able to build out their own virtual stores. All just lives in the browser. It could be like an add-on extension to their original site. And already we're seeing like improvements in ROI. And actually, maybe Obsess could be one that you could talk about.
Okay. I'm shamelessly promoting our portfolio companies. So, the challenge for early stage investing when you go through a compute cycle inflection point is sector alignment. Because otherwise you end up investing in a lot of R&D projects and nothing comes out. So we've been really disciplined about what the sector dynamics are. When you talk about metaverse or XR, any component, and we've been very disciplined about investing in companies that would have a commercial product within 6 to 9 months after the investment. It doesn't have to be amazing, but it has to be somewhat, high quality product. The goal is, we're coming from mobile gaming side. For us, it was all about user behaviors and analytics. And in an emerging market, you don't really have time to, when they come to, great teams come to us and say, hey, give us X million, we have this incredible idea, it'll take us 28 months or 24 months. And we have no idea what's going to happen in 24 months. But we have a good idea what could happen in 6 to 9 months. So we've been really, if you look at our portfolio companies in Fund 1 and Fund 2, they each got to the market within 6 to 9 months. Again, the first product, like Rec Room. Rec Room, 12 people, Nick and his team, they're like working full time to figure out what they're doing in Rec Room, like how much they're spending, retention numbers, engagement numbers, any drop-off points. So that kind of stuff is really important in terms of general approach. The other part is sector alignment. When you have the inflection point coming from AR, VR or AI and blockchain and so forth, consumer sectors adopt faster than enterprise sectors because enterprise environment is more cautious. So, and then consumers start with gaming, right? And gaming then and other aspects. So if you look at our portfolio, we invested early on in Alchemy and Rec Room and Beat Saber and so forth. Along the way, enterprise started picking up. And Fund 1 ended up being 55% enterprise, 45% consumer. Right now, Fund 2 is almost 90% consumer because it's, under the metaverse umbrella. So we try to really look at the sectors and enterprise. You really also have to look at, as Johnson was saying, like what's horizontal, what's vertical. EdTech is a great environment, but EdTech is also very hard to sell in the US. Schools don't have money. So what you do, you start selling high schools and colleges because they start having, the sort of budget allocation. So that's what we've done. We go with the consumer sectors, gaming, entertainment, social, and then enterprise.
I think we have about 10 minutes left. I also want to open up for a few questions, but maybe just one question to the group before that. I mean, at the beginning, we defined the metaverse as, a combination of multiple technologies, which are AR, VR, crypto technologies, including blockchain, and also AI. Marco, I think you mentioned that the focus of your fund is also artificial intelligence, right? When I look at the space, I'm always wondering, there are big incumbents such as, Google, Meta, and so on. Do you think and as AI is obviously a lot about data, do you think, or how is it possible for entrepreneurs to actually break through and compete with these big companies who have these big amounts of data already?
So we had two 100+ million seed rounds recently. Stability AI and Jasper. And in the last 3 months, if you look at the Arvix, submissions of all the AI, papers, it really exponentially exploded. And as you know, the early model being sort of DeepMind, OpenAI, you would need, millions of compute power and run huge GPU clusters and all that kind of stuff. Stability AI's model takes $600,000. And so there's a democratization of access to code base that you can really create in these two cases, unicorns in 15 to 18 months. So there's a huge opportunity right now. And I want to also talk about some myth in terms of venture investing. So what's really happened this year is much lower than last year. But last year was an anomaly. Globally, 630 billion investments. Year before was 300 billion. This year will be 400 billion. So this year will be second all-time high in venture history. So when you hear the news, it's all in relative terms, right? Q3 was small, 74 billion global investment in Q3, and US was half of it, 37 billion. That's still one of the all-time high Q3 performance for venture markets. So whatever you're hearing, in reality, there's a lot of venture money out there right now. And fundraising for venture funds has been all-time high. And Benedict would know, because Bitcraft has an amazing job. So from our perspective, is really AI-generated content is really interesting. Going from text to image to image to image, text to video, text to animation, text to music, and all that is really like dramatically changing. We have a database. We can't keep up with our own database because of the new innovation coming out. So you'll see a lot of investments in AI, also implication of those technologies coming to metaverse. When I run a mobile game company, art was the longest, critical path item. It's because you have to create everything, and you have great artists, and they take pride in their work. In this case, they can come up with the general idea, and they can fine-tune it. And they can even start animation aspect of it. So I think the whole content creation, content generation, not from the AI-generated content, but its implication to gaming, media, entertainment, movie production, everything else will be impacting the whole metaverse sector dramatically.
Yeah. And just quickly on that, I'm also excited about applications or APIs building on top of GPT-3, spending a lot of time in the chatbot space. Circle Labs is one that maybe you should get to know. It's very exciting. Already doing really, really well with Gen Z. Already in the Discord, the session length is around 1 hour 20, just talking to this bot. Almost feels like you're not even talking to a bot, it's a friend. And so the team there have done Gen Z team building for Gen Z, obviously utilizing that data in their way. It's very exciting, actually, what's happening. And I'm more excited in those top layers, despite the defensibility aspect. I think there is something to be said for a defensible layer on top, which is for a specific niche audience.
And I just want to add very quick thing is that like there is a new, I would say like a new layer coming up, which is like AI based created avatars, because before that like we all know that we can create our own avatars and behave like you did in your last AWE conference. It's like we can create our own avatars and behave like our avatars, but now there's a brand new concept which is like AI-backed avatars, which is that like you can be present in a, I don't know, it's either in an enterprise level, you can be present in a presentation or in a conference, and you can see your avatar sitting next to you and not behaving just like you, but behaving with his or her own personality, which is like crazy, because when you think of it in the gaming level, when you think of it in the enterprise level or in any kind of like entertainment, this is happening. And like, to be honest, like small companies are doing this. Like there are small startups and companies, and I guess that like maybe they cannot compete with the big techs, but the big techs will be much more interested in those kind of an AR-backed avatars in the future. So from gaming perspective, I would say this.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So any questions from the audience? Yes, please. Shall I?
I can shout. Ivan Isakov from Valkyrie Industries. Question about hardware investment, hardware peripherals and haptics. What do you think about it? Is there anything happening there, and what's your criteria for investment?
Who wants to take this?
So, you know, our fund mom was a small fund. We thought we couldn't really make hardware investments because of the capital intensity of hardware. And our exceptions were Vario, and I'm sure you know about Vario, and then Proprio. Proprio was creating light field capture of surgery, so that, you know, you're the surgeon, an intern, I can follow you from here if you're operating in Sydney, Australia. And we thought those were transformative hardware investments. And then Vario is, you know, 5 years ago, they had a retina quality HMD. We thought it was really unusual. Again, our investment was modest, and since then, Vario raised a lot of money. In general, the challenge for VCs in hardware side is, one is capital intensity, and then the other one is competing with larger players, right? So, and as a result, you don't see a lot of investment in components and haptics and other things, because the concern is, in an emerging install base, you may not have numbers to create venture, you know, growth model, which is eventually in the US, you have to get to 100 million ARR run rate. And so it's really hard to do with haptics in a small install base. When I say small, actually, right now, Quest install base is similar to PS5 or Xbox 3. But that's the general VC apprehension about hardware investments.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yves Ovier from Lusoview. We are developing smart glasses, and we have been seeing many investors investing in technologies since 2013. And I would like to understand if investors, they try to find advisors, technical advisors, because sometimes we saw some investments that didn't make sense. So is this a practice or not, or it's... That's part of the model. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, but from our side, like we don't we don't do it like this, because sometimes like you don't even need the I would say like advisors, because like when you invest in a strategic part, like focused on a niche market such as like gaming or something like this, like we don't need that really. But if it comes to be investing in a whole new chapter, such as like, for example, if you're investing in the blockchain gaming, then probably you would need one. Otherwise it doesn't make sense how you are going to evaluate, like.
Yeah, I didn't mean to make really a light comment about that. The concern from the venture side is, will they be overpowered by big players, right? And getting a glass out there and having the distribution and reaching out to target customer takes a big effort. above and beyond the capital intensity of manufacturing, and also not only manufacturing and supporting the whole supply chain and logistics, right? So like as a result, you have very bespoke applications of it, like RealWear. RealWear targets enterprise smart glass use cases and for certain sectors, and they've been really successful. And Nreal is coming up with their own sort of smart glass vision. But overall, again, you see hardware investments in regions, like Asia Pacific is more open to hardware investments than North America model. And part of it is really not because you're competing with another hardware manufacturer for venture money. VCs are shifting their dollars to, they call easier investments, right? So that's really the challenge right now. And also there's a concern that, whether you can compete. Right now, Snapdragon is sort of de facto platform. So if you look at Snapdragon XR2 and also the AR version, pretty much, by the way, we're really super excited about, you talked about Meta's Pico's new device, because competition really helps all of us, right? And so Pico has the deep pockets to compete with Meta, which helps all of us. And they have the same reference design, XR2, Snapdragon, and then a lot of glasses are coming. So if you're going to do anything on the glass side, my suggestion, don't reinvent something and really use the existing chipset and create something bespoke to certain, specific to certain sector.
Unfortunately, we're out of time. And with that, I just want to thank the panel participants again. And yeah.
Thank